All right, so ladies and gentlemen, my first guest on the show is very special. She is one of the people that honestly inspired me to begin creating again, to begin doing shows like this, and to become an advocate for creatives. While many know her as a very entertaining Canadian live streamer on the Twitch platform, she is also an independent recording artist, and her new album Aftermath has done incredibly well, pushing into the top 10 on the UK dance charts. We are about to speak with the talented, the beautiful, the wonderful Miss Tobey Kai. Tobey, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor. That has to be one of the best intros I've ever received.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Thank you. One of the things that I have noticed about the world shift to capitalism, especially, is that the world is not a very comfortable place for creatives. And so essentially we're creating a platform where we're going to talk directly to artists, and we'd like to give artists an opportunity to share their stories. What I'd like to know is, what's your origin story? You know, like, so give me an idea of who you are in terms of, you know, birth and growing up, and how did you become you?
Wow. Okay. In a short form, I was raised in the first 9 years of my life in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. And my family moved around quite a bit. So I've been to Northwest Territories, Malaysia, all over the place. Eventually we ended up in Calgary, which is where I grew up. Now I'm a child of a first-generation immigrant family. And because of that, there's a lot of barriers. Didn't have the healthiest childhood, but they tried their best with what they could do. You know, I had a bit of an absentee father, so my mom really did just raise me and my little brother on her own. So there's, you know, I watched her struggle. I watched her go through all of her mental struggles growing up, and I think now that I'm in my 30s, I'm starting to see myself as an extension of that. So that's been kind of pouring into my music. More about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so recently I've just gone on this whole self-discovery journey, and once you start talking about all the things you've been suppressing, you can't stop.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Right.
Absolutely true.
The Hoover Dam has come undone.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that kind of leads up to why I chose music as my outlet. I ended up going to university because that's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other choice. You were kind of seen as a failure in the family if you did anything other than that. So I did a pre-med degree in biology as well as a degree in economics, and then went on to study and become a doctor of acupuncture. Somewhere in between finishing that degree, I ended up having a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage in 2018. I was basically reset. There was a reboot button that just happened on that day. I'd lost my short-term memory, a lot of my motor skills. For about 6 months, I couldn't get myself from the bed to as far as the washroom. So it was a very difficult time for me. But the hardest thing about all of that is losing my skills that I'd worked so hard to develop. I'd studied music my whole life. I've competed in piano, and I had to restart all of that. But in that journey, I found that I enjoyed writing music more than I liked playing other people's pieces to critical perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And so began the journey of the solo artist that I am today. The accident was in 2018, but when I finally finished school and I was up on my feet again, COVID happened. So for 4 years, basically, I had been either bedridden or locked in. So truly, music and Twitch saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
You realize a lot of things when you go through an event as traumatic as that, starting with the people that you surround yourself with or surrounded yourself with. There's a huge shift in that paradigm because you're a new person. Your personality has changed, and the things that people identified with who you were no longer really hold true. So my whole life, my whole environment, who I was, my sense of self, my community, everything, my tribe shifted in that moment. And I found a completely brand new one on Mixer at the time, but on a streaming platform. So that has been my stage. It's been my temple. But yeah, that's basically kind of my origin story.
Cool. I do want to take a second here, and I just want to get some self promo in right away for you. Where can people find your music?
They can find it on all platforms. I just have to look up Tobey Kai. I think it's on 127 platforms worldwide. So Spotify, iTunes, all the big ones,
Okay,
and
cool.
some of the smaller free distribution sites as well. It's not just on paid stream services.
One of the things that I absolutely love about the music that you create is it's obvious that you have a gift for storytelling. Your compositions remind me of film scores. And I feel like the imagery that you create in the music videos is, I can get it even from just the audio for the songs that you don't have, videos accompanying them, etc. Can you talk me a little bit through, is there a creative process that you adhere to? Is it just you ideate one day and then all of a sudden it's like boom, inception, and I'm just going to start writing? Or do you start with a story in mind before you start writing the music?
Wow, I've gone through this huge process of undoing all the classical training that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And you can almost see that progression through my music as it becomes less and less rigid, so to speak. So I try not to limit myself to any process or any sort of structure or anything like that. To me, if it flows, if it feels right, if I'm captivating a feeling, an emotion, my music to me is a time capsule. Aftermath is just a journey of where my heart's been. My first album was a journey of the things that mattered the most to me, because I wrote that in the mindset that I was dying, that I wasn't going to make it. And so it was a very different mindset. I wanted to do something good for the world, so I just took everything I was passionate about and shrunk it into one EP and tried to embody those things and move people and touch their hearts and try to connect them to the causes, so that perhaps even if I just poked at their curiosity a little bit as to like, oh, what is this song about? Why did she write this? Why does it say that? That maybe it'll lead them to a video or to Netflix where they'll look up David Attenborough and Discovery BBC or something and save the environment. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, those were huge causes to me. Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, ironically written before I lost my own short-term memory. Veterans, the environment, as well as cancer survivors, because that is a disease that eventually plagues almost all of us because of how long we live now. And it's atrocious. So there wasn't a process in terms of delivering it as much as there was a determination to kind of make it a spearhead to deliver a message, I suppose, in that first album. With Aftermath, this is, I've survived, I'm here, I'm recovering, I'm coming to terms with that. I'm also coming to terms with who I was versus who I am. There's a lot of tension in there, and there's a lot of, I would say, pretty drastic black and white type of writing. So I have Sanctimonious, which again kind of falls into the category of me preaching to the world about why is it that I'm hearing everyone say someone needs to do something. Who the heck is this someone? Is it me? Is it you?
Oh yeah.
Who does this fall on? And it's that group mentality of like, if there's enough of us, someone will do something. But today, less and less people want to be that person.
Oh yeah.
The bystander effect, or whatever they call it, right? There I was laying, brain bleeding out, dying, not breathing. Everyone just went on by. People whipped out their phones to take photos, but they didn't stop to call an ambulance. And it's unfortunate that this is kind of the direction that people are moving in. We're just all relying on someone else to do it for us. We see a problem and we complain rather than make a difference, preach, write a letter to where it matters, speak about this in a place where it could make some kind of change. But that's that song. So that came from a place of angst. It came from a place of just desperation, not just for the world to hear me, but for the world to hear themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to say that it writes itself, that when I have an idea, it writes itself, because the emotions just flow through me. Kind of like you said, I picture the music video. I picture this motion picture of what is happening here, of an aftermath, a desolate, post-apocalyptic world.
The dystopian future.
Right, and the words start flowing. Of course, there's nuances. There's certain ways that words need to be constructed, certain ways melodies need to be constructed. But I hear the entire piece in my head sometimes before I start writing, because it's a feeling. And I've always had what I now know as mild synesthesia. I had no idea this was a thing, but when I close my eyes and I listen to music, I see colors.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm always surrounded in color, because I like to look and be surrounded by kind of what I feel.
Yeah.
After my brain injury, everything became a little duller. My sense of taste, my hearing, my eyesight, colors seem to just not be as bright anymore. I'm sure that's either I'll get used to it or I'll recover at some point, but it's just part of the nerve damage, I assume, among many other things. So I might not see what you see, so perhaps I look extremely extra, like some kind of, you know, peacock going through a midlife crisis, but truly, this is my comfort zone. So with my music, I try to express what I hear and what I see.
Yeah.
I want people to have that experience. So there's not really a process. I don't know. That's probably not the answer you were looking for. There's no process. Every song starts from a different point on either a point of a moral point, a emotional catalyst, or it might be a time capsule of my life, or it could be something that just came from a really crappy time in my life. I mean, Commandeer was written about a horrible ex of mine over a bottle of wine. That song was so organic. I think start to finish it took me 2 hours. I've never written a song in 2 hours in my life and not changed a single thing about it.
Yeah, that's honestly exactly the kind of answer that I'm looking for, because as creatives, we don't realize it, but we inherently become leaders. And the reason that we inherently become leaders is as we begin to manage success of our own, there are other creatives that look to us and say, hey, how did you get there? What did you do, etc. And this is one of the points that I try to drive home all the time. For truly creative people, you just get the flash and all of a sudden the idea is there and you got to run with it, etc. I
figured you would relate to that.
Yeah, completely do. Do you find it to be a prevalent issue? Do you find that there are just trolls like sort of daily, or has it calmed down? I mean, what's your take on sort of the state of streaming right now, having just sort of this open, inclusive space?
Absolutely, there's trolls everywhere. I think the prevalence has gone down slightly for me. So being Asian during a time of COVID is an atrocious time to be on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, everything from death threats to go eat bats to just racial slurs all around. I used to get that in intervals of one every few minutes. And you know, it got really dark to the point where it didn't hurt me because of the words they're directing to me. It hurt me because I thought there's a person that is thinking this and they're out there and they're obviously angry, but this doesn't make sense.
Right.
Being angry at me for COVID is even more ridiculous than being angry with me about Pearl Harbor.
Right.
To me, I'm sad that they're like that. I'm sad that they got that way. I want to know why they're so angry, but at the same time, I know that I probably couldn't handle that much hatred in one room because I'm such an empath. I absorb. I can't sit in a room when someone's crying and not bawl my eyes out twice as hard, and it just makes me look like I'm a huge attention seeker, but I can't stop it.
I feel that 100%.
I'm like Phoebe from Friends.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm exactly the same way, which is I think why our friendship worked out so easy.
I think so. We're so in tune with each other.
Yeah.
I think most artists you have to be. If you're not in tune and have a direct highway to your emotions, how can you draw from them? If you're not willing to, like I said, I want people to look at themselves. Working on a project, working on something external is extremely easy. Reflecting and working on deep work within yourself, that metamorphosis, when you go into a deep place and you come back changed because you have realized something fundamental about you, that you've solidified another piece of yourself, a pillar that makes you you, so that you can understand yourself and your reactions to the world. This is so important. And I think a lot of people are lacking that. So they're finding ways to release their angst. They're finding people to blame. And I think that's part of the trolling problem, is they don't really understand how to handle these emotions. They're not being taught that anymore. There's not a whole lot of connection happening with the younger generation. A lot of them are on technology and whatnot, whereas back in the day, you would sit together at dinner table, you would have a lot more dialogue within the family. I think that's part of the issue, is that people are lonely. We're so separate. We don't have a sense of village, which is why I think Twitch communities are so important, because we bring people of similar minds together from all over the world, completely disregarding, you know, geography, political boundaries, all of that kind of stuff. We're able to connect people just based on our morals, our personalities, and who we are, because it's hard to find like-minded people within the 10-mile radius.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is, you find closer friends and bigger supporters online than you do in real life. I didn't think I'd ever believe that saying.
Yeah. I honestly believe millennials, you know, in our generation, etc., that are around our age and younger, are obviously much more progressive, and they're not finding progressive communities near them to be able to get the social interaction they desire, that they crave, to be able to talk about issues that are important to them, etc. And I feel like many of them are having conversations with their family, and their family either thinks that they're crazy or just telling them to shut up or don't bring that ish into my house or whatever it is. And they look for somewhere else to go to give that energy and to be accepted. Obviously, one of the things that we deal with as streamers is we talk to people who we don't know in real life. So the parasocial relationship is a very big thing for us. And, you know, we've already talked about the trolls, but how difficult is it for you sometimes to manage your online presence in terms of who you are in real life versus how people are, I'm just going to say it outright, obviously sort of fantasizing you to be, you know, kind of a thing. I mean,
struggle with it every day.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, like, are there tips that you could give to other female streamers in particular? That's like things that you might say. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to find my boundaries, because before this, my relationship with my fans ended after I signed autographs, after I walked off the stage. And now it's 24-hour access to me through my Discord server, through all of my social media outlets. And when I'm streaming, obviously, everyone's hanging out with me for 4 hours at a time, or sometimes 8 to 12 and 16 hours when I do extended streams. That's a long time to be with any fan.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to start getting attached to someone when you're watching them for that long, which is not unusual in the Twitch universe, because people want to be in a community and they want to be, they don't want to be alone. They want to do their work, being able to communicate with someone and having someone entertain them and kind of distract them from all the negative things in their life.
Right.
But when you think about that, I idolize many people. I idolize many musicians, but I don't sit there and even watch them for 3-4 hours a day.
Right.
And then on top of that, you have real-time interaction. So they get they are just names in chat for me most of the time, but to them, you are this person. You are like their Jarvis. You are their Siri. You are their Alexa.
Yes.
You're always there every time they call on you. It's difficult sometimes for me when they know everything about me and I know very little about them. So there's a super big power imbalance there. But the thing that I struggle with the most is what you just said, the fantasizing. People only see one side of me. I don't come on to stream disheveled in my pajamas with, you know, one shoe missing.
Yeah.
People don't see me when I'm just an absolute mess, when I'm catatonic, when I'm going through a huge anxiety attack or something like that. I'm a real person with real struggles with all these things. I do try to be real. There are times when I had an anxiety attack full blown on stream and I said, stop, I'm actually not going to end stream. I'm going to address this. This is okay. I'm not embarrassed. I just don't want to trigger someone.
Oh,
There's
that
a
takes
huge
guts.
difference.
That takes serious guts. I applaud you for that.
Right. And it's difficult because I go back and I watch the VOD and I have to do it like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm crying my eyeballs out. I am not spewing much sense. And so I try my best to let people see kind of behind the scenes a little bit. And of course, I know people are going to clip it. People are, you know, you have haters out there that are laughing, that are joyously celebrating that you're not doing well.
Yeah.
And I always remind people, before you share, just remember 80% of people don't care about what you're going through truly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 20% are happy that you're going through it. So just know that putting yourself out there is a sign of strength. It's powerful, but just know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And also know that the internet never forgets.
Right. And
as
I
they
forgot
say.
your question.
No, actually, you answered it. You answered it. We were talking a little bit about parasocial relationships and your sort of tips for how people perceive how people perceive you on stream, which you answered and then went into.
I did.
Yeah, which is okay.
One thing I failed to mention is boundaries. That's very, very important.
Well, let's start from there. So, tell me about boundaries.
Boundaries. These are things that kids born of trauma don't understand because we never had our boundaries respected. So this is a very difficult sort of thing for me to teach other people because I'm still learning about it.
Same.
But the most important thing is just follow your gut. If it feels uncomfortable, don't do it. And there's ladies and gentlemen that make premium content, and people assume because they do that anything goes.
Yeah.
But it's a professional service at the end of the day.
Yes.
Right? Just like as a doctor, if I, do a prostate exam or do a pap smear, I'm not just going to walk up to a party and stick my hand up your cooch. That's not okay.
Right.
Professional service, regardless of the context.
Right.
And same with streamers. I'm here offering people advice, consoling them, sharing my music, opening my heart. And of course, it's exhausting because it's one person versus 70 to 100 people at the same time. And it's like, sometimes you almost feel like they're just throwing things at you and you're trying to answer as quickly as possible. And after that, I'm just drained. And then when they come to you and they bring their personal issues that they're going through with you, as an empath, you truly want to help every single one of them because you can relate to it. Yeah. But at the same time, you're one person and there's thousands. There's just simply no way. And that eventually leads to your mental health deteriorating, which then your community deteriorates. So for the greater good, truly, there's times when you just have to shut everything off and tell everyone, this is where you can reach me in a general public platform, for example, my Discord server.
Right.
And direct them to the necessary facilities if they do need help. So all of the help link numbers and everything I provide, all of those.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to disconnect yourself and remind yourself that as much as you love your community, you have to take care of yourself and fill your own cup every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard for us because it's people we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not a product, not just temporary service.
Mm-hmm.
You're a part of their lives, and every day they're there supporting you.
Yeah.
Having you fill a void in their lives. That connection is extremely strong. Mm-hmm. And as a streamer, you have to be aware of that, even though you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not tangible to you. You can imagine that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of streamers don't realize that this relationship is powerful. They are sitting there watching you that entire time. In other terms, it might seem like obsession, but you are their favorite TV show, except you respond.
Right.
And when your favorite TV show ends, I don't know about you, but I have this hopeless feeling of like, what am I going to do with my life now?
Right. What do I do with this time I just reclaimed?
Right. But
Totally.
You simply cannot give yourself up for 24-hour access, which is what I used to do to everyone, because in the end, you crumble, everyone crumbles. No one wins.
Your recording of your album, that was all self-funded or funded by your Twitch revenue?
The entire album recording was funded by myself. The campaign and the marketing, as well as the remix, however, the Kai crew funded that. That's directly awesome. Just from Twitch itself. Most of my artist friends would start a GoFundMe for the album campaign. Mm-hmm. I decided not to do that because I'm not really anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So I did strictly a Twitch campaign, and we raised the entirety of my campaign through that, which I was terrified to put it up there, to be honest. I had a bit of an anxiety breakdown. A couple of the members in my in my community were the ones that pushed me and said, just do it. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's unfortunately one of the biggest hurdles we have to jump over is people say, well, what's the worst can happen? People say no. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand how much that hurts as an artist.
This is my baby.
Exactly. You're rejecting my children.
Worse than being dumped by 10 people at the same time.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah,
So, okay,
personal.
so you get the album funded. You get through writing the music, you get through recording it, you get through engineering and producing it. So now once the album's done as an independent artist, then it's upload to the streaming services and post it on social media and sort of hope for the best at that point?
That would have been the way I would do it. I do have an amazing friend that guided me, who's been consulting for me for this album. So it's made a life of difference for me. Basically what happened was I bit the bullet and decided to save up as much as I could to find an actual human being that was experienced in the press field to navigate for me, because otherwise I am cold calling and sending hundreds of emails every day, which I used to do. I used to send between 100 to 300, maybe more emails a day, give or take. Just reaching out to every organization, reaching out to other musicians, reaching out to anybody that had anything to do with my music that might have some interest in it, just to find a connection, because I don't know a damn person.
Right.
Nobody around me is a professional musician. I have students that are trying to find their way in as well that I'm trying to be the trailblazer for. But having taught for 10 plus years of my life, my experience is there. I don't know what to tell them because I haven't even found my way in. So knowing who to invest in and knowing when to invest is very important. Knowing the limitations of your own skills, I suppose, which is difficult because it's a lot of money. Spending a few $1,000s on someone to go and vet news and articles and on all that stuff and to secure a premiere for you is a lot without a promise of actually getting you anything. It's a gamble. And you could spend, like some people, $100,000 on a campaign and come back completely empty. So first of all, you need to truly believe that you've got a product, a viable product. And then you have to back the brand. And the entire time you have to live the brand, because you're answering calls from magazines and everything who potentially want to interview you at the drop of a dime, but you need to be ready constantly. All the time, whenever. And that's difficult. I don't have a makeup team. I don't have a hairstylist team. I did my hair myself for the longest time.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah, all the colors you saw. That was me in my. You should see my bathroom. But yeah, I think being an indie artist, honestly, is just finding the path of least resistance to where you want to go, finding your audience, knowing which avenue to invest in. And for some people, that might be social media. I know some people get a social media manager and blow up their TikTok or something like that. I didn't feel like my audience was there. Maybe I'm wrong. I wanted to go the old school route because I feel the music industry is still the music industry somewhere. And lo and behold, when my song hit number 7 in the UK dance charts, to me, that was validation of like, you know what? Follow your gut. That was right.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was the right decision. And you might be an old cat in this game, but the old infrastructure is still here somewhat. So despite the crazy new evolution of streaming and everything else, talent still has a place in the world. But I don't think people make a living off of music anymore. Music itself is not a valuable commodity on its own. Back in the day, it was selling albums, selling merch, selling out tickets and everything related to the concert. Nowadays, just like any celebrity or influencer, it's everything surrounding your product. And that part I have a hard time wrapping my head around, doing all of the miscellaneous accessories that come with that. So I think people like Beyonce, they make more off of their fashion or their perfume or their advertisements than they would off of a song on Spotify. And difficult concept to wrap my head around, that my music is not what is going to propel me. It is the thing that I'm branded to that's going to open doors that people will know me for. But in order to survive as an artist, you really need to be the jack of all and just stick your finger in 50 different pots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I may be honest for a second though, as someone who has, I don't know how, but for some reason I was considered to be an arbiter of taste, you know, as a creative director, and I have always thought that you have an it factor to you. Your look, your sound, etc. Your image is unique. You're honest in a disarming way, which I find incredibly refreshing. And I totally see what you mean, because, you know, like you said, you know, Beyonce, I think Rihanna is a good example too. Her Fenty line was what catapulted her. I think she's a billionaire now. Right? I think she's made $1 billion or something like that with her lines. And so, yeah, totally makes sense. And I also feel like that's sort of the double-edged sword that a lot of artists don't understand about modern day capitalism. It's that as an artist, you want to be respected and taken seriously for the work. But a lot of people, especially young people, don't understand that ultimately, if you want that level of success, you're talking about becoming the product. And to a degree, it means you can't always be exactly who you want to be, for fear that you will lose some of that customer base, etc. And unfortunately, those who are at the top of the capitalism pile, the CEOs and the investors and that sort of thing, they are the ones who will leave you in a heartbeat if you don't do exactly what they expect you to do. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting, you know, line to draw. I think a lot of artists would benefit from some sort of realization younger on, to say, here's what I really need to be happy in life. Here are the simple things that I need to be happy in my life, and just not worry about things, and not always concentrate on like having Drake money, so to speak.
Yeah, but I think that's where we lose most artists, is that idealism, the dreaming stage, and then reality. And I'd say probably 90+% fall out in between there. And the ones that really grind it out past multiple stages of realization, of reality hitting them and going, wow, this isn't anything like what I thought it was. And just having enough passion for what you do to push through, those are the ones who succeed. The ones that just keep grinding till they're down to their bones, so to speak. But that's where indie artists have a little bit of an advantage. When you are up there doing commercial music, up in, you know, the upper echelons of music, the higher up you climb, the less you can say or do without completely doxing yourself or causing yourself a whirlwind of media trouble.
Right.
Let's put it that way. When you're really small, nobody's listening. But when you're an indie artist, somewhere in this gray area, it's a comfortable place to be, because I can still speak my mind and nobody's controlling me, which is good and bad. Bad because I don't have a label, and so I'm still funding everything myself, but good because I can be 100% authentic and not worry about losing my funding.
Right.
Because my tribe ultimately is who is funding what I'm doing, and they so far like the fact that you know, I don't have a filter, which you clearly don't either.
One of the things that I find disheartening about modern culture is that somehow everybody believes that they need to be a critic, and saying the words, that sucks, rather than saying, that's just not for me. Because, you know, as we've said, you know, it's like everything's art. Just because you don't like a particular form of art doesn't mean you have to bash it. You just go, not my thing. You know, that's
absolutely,
that's all you'd have to say.
They don't understand that it's an extension of us. You don't just go around going, oh, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're hideous, you're hideous, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you. You wouldn't do that to people.
Right.
But to something that is a part of their soul, it's so easy to bash it, even though, you know, I know they couldn't do better. And I know for a darn fact that it's not terrible, but they feel the need to just, or comparing artists. Oh, that's okay, but this person's better. It's so toxic in this industry when you hear stuff like that, because a lot of times you respect those people so much and you're being bashed and compared to them when it's like, well, that was my idol.
Right. Exactly.
I always wanted to be like them, and you're telling me that I sound nothing like them, and I'll never ever be anywhere near, you know, what they're doing, and I sound awful, and it breaks my heart, and it's hard. I think I'm slowly adapting the habit of not reading all my comments, which is difficult because I like to respond to everyone, but I have to quickly skim through them.
Yeah, I hope that both of us can get to a point where we can afford to hire somebody who can tell us, okay, respond to this one. Exactly. Yeah. Respond to this one. Just give me this.
Terrible. Turn around.
Right. Exactly. Forget about that one. Just answer this. Exactly. Totally agree.
Exactly.
You know, and then maybe we can pay somebody to hold our smartphones instead of having to hold on to that all day, every day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, my poor neck.
Yeah. Right. On the flip side of things, was there a specific time where you got a particular compliment that really resonated with you, or that somebody who said something to you where you're like, oh, like that hit you deep? Like, can you tell me about one of those times?
You know, those times happen very often with my songs that I wrote about the causes I care about.
Okay.
Where someone would listen to a song and go, oh my goodness, this is so accurate. I can feel the emotion in this, and I can resonate with it so much. You know, I've been through something similar, and this helps me remember my late grandmother or my late mother or something like that, and it's brought me to tears. To me, that one comment made the entire struggle worth it. Because you didn't just touch someone, you touched them deeply.
Yeah.
And imagine doing that with words, or doing that sitting down having coffee with someone. It's incredibly hard to touch someone on such a primal level. And to do so with your art, with your music, with 3 minutes of your sound, that's the highest compliment that I could receive. I don't care if it's bad or good. I just hope people feel strongly about my music, even if they absolutely hate it, but with passion, I still feel pretty accomplished.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that statement, because I do the same thing with my comedy and my writing and that sort of thing. It's like, I hope that I can help people laugh away the pain, you know, to a large degree.
I love listening to you talk. I love your streams.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, that kind of brings me to my last question. Unfortunately, an hour goes by so quickly. I could talk to you all day about this stuff. You've heard me talk before about how whoever we are from a mental perspective, whatever our life experience has been, if it included trauma, didn't, whatever, that we have a responsibility, not really to the rest of the world, but to ourselves, to own who we are and take on the responsibility of our own personal growth. It's not anyone else's responsibility to care for us. It's nice when people do, but it's not anybody else's responsibility but our own to grow. For your career, like for your music, etc., what's kind of like the future from here for you, for Tobey Kai? Like, where would you like things to go? Are there particular things that you want to achieve next? What's the next steps for you, or are there any? Like, are you just sort of enjoying the success of this album right now and you're taking a breather?
I'm trying to. I'm also trying not to plan too far ahead into my future, and I'm just letting my intuition, my gut, my soul guide me at this point.
Nice.
You know, once you die and you come back to life, you realize that setting these deadlines for yourself it's pretty superfluous.
Yeah, it really is.
Every time you do that, something comes your way and just knocks you right off your rhythm. So you just have to let yourself free flow. Like Bruce Lee says, be like water.
Oh yeah, be like water, my friend.
What your next song's gonna sound like. I don't even know what genre my next song's gonna be. So I let me guide me without me taking control of where it's going. That sounds absolutely ridiculous, but
it doesn't sound ridiculous at all, honestly. It sounds very very artistic.
Yeah.
Which is, that's who we are as artists. We just we're masters of finding the flow. That's how we get paid.
Yeah, we gotta find where we fit, and being vulnerable. Vulnerability is the strongest muscle you can ever develop as a person. Being honest and vulnerable with yourself first. A lot of us struggle with things that we don't even want to say out loud, We don't want to breathe life into them because we feel if we did that somehow it would tarnish our self-worth. But the more people that are vulnerable that speak out, the easier it will be for the rest of the people to see that, you know, we're not all that different. And all those skeletons you have in the closet are not skeletons at all. It's just what makes us human. And it doesn't end when my music ends. I am still that same vulnerable person. And it's okay. And if you're going to attack me for it, that's fine too, because people are going to throw shade at you anyway. So if you're going to be judged, might as well be judged for being truly you.
Oh my gosh, I could not have said that any better. There's no way. Tobey, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being the first guest on the program.
My pleasure.
This was everything I hoped for and more. And I just want to end this by saying, you've been an inspiration. I don't know if I've ever told you that before. But in so many ways, after my own mental breakdown in 2019, and then getting into the pandemic in 2020, etc., I was really freaking lost for a while. And I stumbled into your stream one day, and watching you struggle with getting your shit together was one of the things that really helped me understand this process. And that, I apologize for not giving you that in the pre-interview to prepare you, you know, for that. But the fact of the matter is that's part of the reason why I wanted you to be the first guest that I ever interviewed.
Oh my
because
goodness.
you seriously inspired me. You know, so
I was not expecting to hear that, but you know what? That makes my whole day. That makes my whole week. I'm so glad that you're back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Better.
Glad to be back. So looking forward to growing together.
I'll be behind you.
And I you.
Reminding you that we're all just a little bit messed up.
Oh yeah, we're all effed.
Yeah,
when it comes down to it.
Crazy shit you do, I can do better.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
So
All right.
much love for you. Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. Tobey Kai, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. So thank you again, and looking forward to the future.